Good day. It's Thursday, April the 27th. I'm Martin Gago with Market Radius Research, and we've got CEO Farhad Abasov of Millennial Potash joining us today. Millennial is exploring the Banio Potash Project in Gabon, and we did a deep dive interview with Farhad a little over a month ago, and since then they've provided an update and just announced the results of the reinterpretation of a historic 2D seismic program, which we're going to review with Farhad. But please remember, this is neither recommendation nor investment advice. We're here to learn about the news and the company. Farhad, thanks a lot for joining us here. News came out yesterday on the historic 2D seismic on your project in Gabon there. Can you give us the highlights on what this all means?
Sure, Martin. Good to be here. Good to see you again. So, look, it was a major step forward in our exploration program. This 2D seismic program was shot a few years back. So we had access to this data, and we sent it for reinterpretation a few weeks back, and we got it yesterday, and we'll put it out. So let me just put it in kind of succinct terms as to what exactly it means, what the repercussions are for implications of this reinterpretation are for us going forward. So first of all, the seismic data indicate significantly thick salt sequence. And salt sequence is basically, we're talking about sequence that contains potash horizons. So looking at the reinterpretation of the seismic data, we see that there's almost 400-meter thick salt sequence in the northern part of the previously explored area of our project area, and then almost 800 meters in the south. So very, very thick in the south. So what that means that the entire potash sequence, or salt sequence in this case, is actually pretty uniform, and it's a flat line. That's very important, without any major structural interruptions, meaning without any major faults. Now, as you may remember, we're talking about our mining methodology last time, Martin, and we're focusing on solution mining. For solution mining to be successful, you have to have a pretty good idea as to what kind of caverns you're going to create, their size, their shape, spacing between the caverns as well. Now, the lack of faults or major faults actually allows you to create a lot, these caverns in a more optimal fashion. So that's one major important finding out of this interpretation or reinterpretation of seismic. The other one is that we've seen a very strong and positive correlation between the thickness of salt sequence and the presence of potash-bearing horizons, what we call potash cycles. And, West African potash basin is quite well known, quite well explored, but not its Gabon part. So what we see here in the south is that 800-meter thickness most likely indicates that all the other 10 potash-bearing cycles that are present in general West African potash basin probably extend into our project in Gabon. So that's also very important for us to understand. A couple of other things I think that I should bring to the attention of our viewers that are important are that the fact that we got a pretty thick the salt horizon, so salt sequence. That also indicates that that will help us with further exploration program, meaning we'll be able to actually locate further drill holes both in the north and south. We'll obviously integrate this seismic data into a 3D model that will allow us to optimize also the radius of influence of the resource estimate when the time comes to calculate it, because obviously this thickness actually indicates where potash is going to be, in addition to drill holes that we're going to sink. The one other thing that I want to mention here, which is important, the seismic data indicate that this thick salt sequence is present over a very large area.
Can you remind us how far is it from north to south, where it goes from 400 meters thick to 800 meters thick? How many kilometers are those?
So it's roughly about 40 to 50 kilometers.
Wow.
So the entire area that seems to have, or indicates that it has salt sequence, is almost 300 square kilometers.
Yeah.
So this is a very large area. Again, that what this data indicate is that there's a good chance that there was substantial resource in this area, considering the salt sequence and considering how big of an area actually the salt sequence covers, that was part of the 2D seismic data. So that's why we think these parameters, these findings are extremely important to indicate both the uniformity of the salt sequence, the potential presence of those 10 potash cycles that I mentioned, and the fact that we're talking about a very large area of 300 square kilometers that has this very thick salt sequence.
Also, given the uniformity of it, and I think you were talking about the area of influence, that also implies you probably have to drill fewer holes, as that shows a consistency. So whatever the spacing will be, if they're both similar results on either end of it, that you then sort of assume that everything in between is consistent.
You're absolutely right, Martin. That's exactly what it means. Meaning that, if we have a pretty good understanding of the consistency of the potash layers, potash horizons, we won't need to drill as many drill holes, because there are no major structural interruptions or faults. That means that it's pretty consistent, and that means that instead of, let's say, drilling 3-4 holes in the north, we may actually be content with only 1 or 2, and the same thing applies to the south. So that brings down your operating costs, of course, and but also it creates a 3D model of what you have in the ground that obviously helps with resource calculation.
All right. And is this essentially consistent with how the data was originally interpreted, and you just needed a kind of a refresh on it, or was there some surprises, or good or bad either on this reinterpretation?
I think that the original interpretation was a little bit general. It wasn't, they really did not have all the details in terms of the thickness, in terms of the location of this thickness, in terms of faults, etc. So we sent it for further, more detailed reinterpretation. So I would say that this reinterpretation actually gives us a lot more details, and especially in the south, especially as far as those 10 potash cycles or potash layers that we're talking about. We knew, of course, that it covered 300 square kilometers, but we didn't know, whether the salt sequence actually was present over the entire 300 square kilometer or not. So this was very helpful for us.
All right. So what are the next steps now? Now you've got this data, you've got your camp set up. What are you doing next, and what should we hear about next?
So the next things, we have drill cores from previous exploration. We've sent them for reanalysis, so we'll obviously announce the results as they come in. But in addition to that, we're waiting for our drill rig to arrive sometime in May on site, and as soon as it arrives, we're going to start drilling. So the first results should start coming back in June and July.
So would that be June and July from the historic
No, it's from our
new drills?
Exactly. Yeah, historic probably will be coming in May.
Oh, okay. So we're going to get some historic drill results back in May, and then new drill results in
June, July.
Okay, so that's exactly.
It's pretty busy news flow, news pipeline for us.
Yeah. And how many holes have you planned to drill at this point?
Well, at this point in the northern part, we're planning to drill at least 1, and then it will go quite deeper than the previous drill holes. The previous ones, you remember, they went down to about 550 meters. The first one went to sink down to about 700 meters. And if we see that, at the 700-meter depth, actually new potash cycles or potash seams are intersected that extend from the south, then we'll probably sink another hole, just to make sure that it's pretty uniform there as well. So that will be the northern part of the project area. And then we'll move the drill rig down to the south later this year, and we'll drill at least 2 or 3 holes down there as well.
All right. And the southern part has not been drilled yet, is it?
It has not been drilled recently, but it was drilled in the 1970s. That's where we got all the information that they have intersected very thick potash seams there as well. But they were not confirmed by 2017, 2018 drilling, because they just focus on the north.
Gotcha.
So that's why we have to really re-drill that there. But we do have, historical data, of course. That's why we're so excited about it.
All right. Well, that sounds great. Anything else to add to this, or should we wrap it up here?
No, I think as far as the seismic data reinterpretation is concerned, that I think we've covered most of it. And one other piece of news we just put out today, it's mostly for our American viewers, is that we're now finally DTC eligible, so the stock can be traded, freely and easily in the US. But
that's great.
That is important. Yeah, exactly.
It is more eyes on the stock then, so that's fantastic.
Absolutely.
All right, Farhad, thank you very much for giving us the update. Appreciate it, and looking forward to getting updates as they roll out.
Thanks so much, Martin. Good to see you.